Question: when does belief stop guiding life and start performing identity? I'm Kit Rodgers. Got questions? Most beliefs don't start as costumes. They start as tools. Stoicism didn't enter my life as an aesthetic or a label. It showed up when I needed discipline badly enough to survive myself. Something steadies your hands. Something gives you posture. Something keeps you upright when everything else is slipping. And then, quietly, it changes. At some point, the belief stops being something to use, and it becomes something that you wear. You don't announce this transition. You don't even consent to it. It just kind of happens. And once belief becomes identity, it stops being flexible and it becomes defensive. Identity is efficient. It answers questions before they're asked. It tells you who you are. It tells you who your people are. That efficiency is comforting, but it comes with a cost. Once belief becomes identity, disagreement stops feeling like information, and it starts feeling like a threat. At that point, defending the belief matters more than examining it, and preserving the identity matters more than telling the truth. I once wrote that a person who draws hard lines eventually becomes secure, or secured, as in walled in behind those self-perpetuating boundaries. Because that's the trade. Beliefs can change. Identities resist, and they resist even when the beliefs that form them no longer help. William James noticed something unsettling. Beliefs don't just describe the world. They help construct the self that's doing the believing. And once a belief becomes essential to who you think you are, it really stops being open to revision. John Dewey pushed this even further. For Dewey, identity wasn't something you had. It was something you did. It was a pattern of habits, a way of participating. When beliefs harden into identity, growth stops. Not because the belief is wrong, but it's because it can't be tested anymore. Eastern philosophy has been circling this problem for centuries. Buddhism calls it attachment to self. Taoism treats fixed identity as a sort of resistance to the flow of life. The Bhagavad Gita warns that identifying too closely with outcomes traps us in anxiety. Different traditions, same diagnosis. Attachment hardened into identity. I want to read a few lines from my journal. It's not as conclusions. just as evidence. Let's see. All right. I am lost. My life so many times feels like performance. I am always aware of the audience, whether there or possibly there. I don't know who I am, what I want, who I want to be, other than loved by my family. Words are important. Labels are not. That wasn't written for insight. It was written because something felt wrong. Because identity can feel like coherence while quietly hollowing you out. Out here, identity does not survive long. The land doesn't ask who I think I am. It asks what I'm doing. The horses don't respond to labels, they respond to tone. The chickens don't recognize credentials, just recognize rhythm. You miss enough mornings and you don't get a critique. You get disorder. Walking these trails reminds me of something else I wrote, that what works here is repetition, not intention. The land corrects identity constantly. Fences fail, weather changes, plans collapse. Identity doesn't argue with the land. It gets ignored. What works here isn't a story about who you are. It's attention, adjustment, repetition. So here's where I'm landing. For now, beliefs are necessary. Identities are optional. Beliefs can guide action. Identities demand defense. Pragmatism gives me permission to treat beliefs as tools, not costumes. I wrote something else that keeps coming back to me. My midlife question is, who am I? Maybe best answered if I'm unable to answer it. Let go. You'll be someone new tomorrow. That feels right. Wear your beliefs lightly, or they will wear you. Next time, we'll talk about meaning, why we keep asking for it, and why it rarely shows up where we expect. Love you. Mean it.